All right. Hey, everyone. Mark here. Thanks for joining me for another Greenbridge Investing market analysis. If you're new to the channel, please make sure you share your market or your symbol in the chat that you would like to see me analyze. I'm going to try to keep my portion brief so I can spend more time on markets and charts that you'd like to see. So I can keep this whole thing around an hour. All right, that's the goal. Anyway. All right, so with that being said, let's get started. This is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. Also, so we're going to start with Bitcoin. Before we begin, real quick, I just want to show you this right here. We have a swing trade signal service by text, by email, portfolio management ideas by text and email, and a chat room. Now, keep in mind, this is a swing trade signal service, not a day trade one, which means, you know, a few trades per week within each asset class is within reason. We try to do more than that if possible, but, you know, we get people that come in and expecting, like, you know, 5 trades a day or 3 trades a day, and that's a little, depending on market conditions, that could be unrealistic. This is not a day trade chat room, is what my point is, or a service, okay? Swing trades. So the 6-month package is $299, or basically $50 per month for 6 months. All right, the yearly package is $399 or $33.25 per month for the entire year, which is pretty good considering I was looking at one of our competitors' websites recently and they were asking for $169 per month, which is a little high, okay? And yeah, maybe you'll get some more trades for that, but still, it's a little high. So anyway, we offer a lot more value anyway. So if you have any questions, please check out greenbridgeinvesting.com. We do have a 7-day free trial, and you can email info@greenbridgeinvesting.com if you have specific questions about that, okay? So let's get started here. Let me say hi to everyone in the chat. Hey, HS, good to see you. Hey, David, nice to see you. Okay, cool. So I'll definitely get to your stuff here. Also, if you can, please press the like button if you like the videos that I do here and register for the channel. I was told that these are pretty much a poor use of my time by someone, and I don't agree with that. So by pressing the like button, it lets me know that you appreciate it while others do not. Anyway, so let's talk about the Bitcoin situation right here and our recent swing trade idea. Okay, so for those of you in the chat, and by the way, I think it was Nicholas from the chat, and someone else had a question. I think it was BMRN, I believe was the symbol someone wanted to see. So I will cover those as well. So in case those people are watching after the fact. Hey, Gabriel, good to see you. Okay, so what I want to focus on here basically for the next 15 minutes is the swing trade idea that I sent out yesterday in the evening. Now, it was a little tricky. I had to send it out fast because the way the market was moving. And I want to talk about this situation because obviously the trade is in play now. And some people missed it. I mean, but again, it was tough because of the way this candle was developing. So let's talk about that. And then, of course, I want to spend a little time on the stock market and a little time on gold. So here's the thing. We had just the other day, we had an inside bar, okay, right here. And we didn't take the trade on the break of that inside bar. Because why? The candle after that, okay, the first green candle was actually tested and slightly took out the inside bar low. That's actually a sell signal. Here, let me make that real big so you can see it. This is actually a sell signal. Now, this can catch a lot of people and basically lure them the wrong way, especially those that are stuck on smaller time frames. Hey, Michael. So when I see something like that, of course, we don't call shorts, but I want to see if that sell signal is going to follow through or not. Hi, Irina. Nice to see you. So, you know, I want to see, that's why I held off on calling the signal right away. I wanted to see how this green candle developed, So it took out the high, the inside bar high, which was actually the buy signal. So it was a sell signal first, followed by a buy signal. That can be very tricky. Now, the other compelling thing about this idea, why did I wait? Well, for one, I wanted to see this support be established by the market. Now, someone put in the chat, the other day, like 32.5, which I had mentioned a number of times, held, even though I didn't actually call a trade from there. And yeah, that's true, because the levels, it's our job to figure out the levels in advance. But then it's the market's job to prove the level, right? Just because we see the level and that there's a chance that the market will hold that level doesn't mean it actually will, right? So that's where confirmation comes in, and that's where like a setup is so important. So we got the setup, right? The inside bar and blah, blah, blah. So like I said, what makes this compelling is the fact that it held the 32.5, first of all, which is what? Who can tell me what this is? The fact that it held 32.5, who can tell me what this entire structure is? Let's see. Who can tell me? I'm not going to give you any hints here. Who can tell me what this entire structure, what would I classify this structure as? All right, and let's forget these candles. Let's just look at this candle right here, okay? Let's just look at this situation right here. Forget today's candle. What is this structure? Or even we could get rid of that too, right? What is this? What would we classify that as? I know there's a little delay here, so I'll give you a moment to answer. High or low. Right, Michael, you got it. High or low. So a high or low often leads to what? What does a high or low often lead to? High or low. Well, so it's a high or low, and it often leads to, as you know, and I know some people are going to say it, a higher high, right? That's characteristic of a bullish trend. Now we got this structure. We got this structure within the context of a nice bullish trend. There's no question Bitcoin's been bullish, right? Along with the whole space. So a higher low is likely to lead to a higher high. That gives me a lot of confidence to take the trade. You know, even though we got it slightly above that buy area, right? The high of this candle, the inside bar is 36,639. We took the trade at 37,550. So it's slightly higher, but I was willing to take that chance and you know, go after it a little bit, only because I know there's a good chance that this thing is going to go for the higher high. And here we are, right? It's going for it. Today's high is 40, basically the 4100 area. And it's, even though it's a little off that area right now, this is in a very good, this is what I want to see. Now, what we need from here is follow through, right? We get the follow through, then we're likely to go to 46. Hey, Anna, we're likely to go to 46. And that's where, as you know, my profit targets are distributed between. All right, the breakout and then 46. Can this thing clear 46 and go higher to the 50K area? Anything is possible. It's possible. But as you know, I'm conservative. So I prefer to exit earlier with a higher probability of a green trade. Okay? Now, here's the thing to keep in mind for those of you that took this trade. If you're in, right, and it goes to target 2 and you have 1/3 of your position left, and it's on its way to target 3, and you say, you know what, I'm going to let this thing run, I'm going to use my discretion, and I'm going to cancel target 3. You can do that because you have the luxury. You're a strong hand, right? And if the thing is on its way to breaking out, you want to maybe perhaps try using a trailing stop or something like that. Now you can let the thing run, and maybe you'll capture a big move. The reason why we put that third target in there is so that we can say we're officially out and we've locked in a profit and it can go on our track record. Okay? You want to let this thing run and manage it. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Bitcoin can run further. It's strong. Okay? Now, here's the other scenario. If Bitcoin fails, because again, we should make the higher high, but there's no guarantee that it will, right? If it's going to fail, it's going to fail somewhere in these low 40K, like the 41, 42 area. That's where it's most likely to fail, if it fails. That's why we have some targets, so we want to lock in some profit in case it does something like that. If it fails, because everyone's going to pile in on that breakout, right, all that stuff, then it's signaling a potential range or a broad consolidation, which is typical of a wave 4. A wave 4 can make a slight higher high before it pulls back and starts testing supports. Keep in mind, wave 4, which goes back to Elliott wave, wave 4s they're very difficult to trade, number one. Number two, they can linger for weeks or maybe even months. We saw a wave 2 linger for 2 years. Now, I don't know if we're going to linger that long for this thing, but we have to be open to anything. So those are the main scenarios I want you to keep in mind. Either we break out and we keep going, great, that's what we want to see, or we fail. And if we fail, you need to make an adjustment there. Perhaps, well, obviously some of the profit targets would have been reached at that point, so your risk will be reduced. But that's where you can either tighten a stop, perhaps get out of some more, do something to adjust for the failure, because Bitcoin's likely to test the middle of the range or maybe even the low in that situation. When it becomes range bound, it may go for 32.5 again. It's possible if that occurs. So we have to see. People like predictions, and people want, they want me to say, oh, this thing's going to 60K. People like to be fed hope. They like to be lied to, right? That's what marketers do. They lie to you. They tell you what you want to hear. I tell you the reality because that's what I do. Okay, I'm a chartered market technician. My job is to analyze charts and tell you what the chart says, not what I want you to think. Okay, so those are the scenarios for Bitcoin. Okay, now I'm going to run through the chat here real quick and see if I have any questions about Bitcoin. Let's see. Could you also look at Litecoin? Yeah, sure. Okay, no problem. I'm going to take a look at that. No problem, Michael. Let me see what else we got here. Anna, may not be able to attend the whole session, but I really want to know your thought on Nicola. Yeah, no problem. Okay. And BNGO, sure. Okay. Laura Maria, hi, welcome. Missed the trade on BTC. What do we know now to get more profit? Okay. So that's a Bitcoin question. Let me answer that one, Laura. The thing is, if you missed this swing trade, then it's a bad idea to chase it because now you're taking a lot more risk. Look at the price, right? So right now we're at 39,655. If you buy this thing right now, you're taking 8,000 points of risk potentially. We had to take 5,000 points of risk, which I think is a lot, but that's the nature of the market right now. Those are the proportions. A very common mistake that people make is they say, well, I only want to lose $100, so I'm going to put the stop based on that. The thing is, the market doesn't care what you want to lose. It only cares about its own proportions, right? The proportions mean something. When markets find support and resistance, there's a reason why they find them there. That's because that's where a larger group of investors are all taking the same type of action, whether they're all buying or they're all selling. So if you put a stop where you want it, it's just random, okay? So you can't think that way. You have to think in terms of what the market says. And the market says the risk is defined by this 32.5K low, or basically 30K low, right? It went to this 30K low over here. But basically that 32.5 area, this here, that's really where the risk is defined from. So you have to consider that. So if you buy this now, it's very risky. So as a swing trade, if you want a day trade, that's a different story. You can control risk in a different way. But if you're new to this and you don't have a lot of experience, I would not recommend a day trade. The other consideration is an investment type of trade, a position trade. The only way, to get involved in something like that, because again, Andrew sent out that thing about the 90-day challenge where he's going to throw technical analysis aside and just buy based on position sizing, right, at any price. So you can consider something like that, but what controls your risk in such a situation is your position size. And that has to be relative to the amount of money that you want to invest in Bitcoin. So we talk about this a lot. If you have $1,000 you want to invest, you don't buy it all at one price. You split that up into 10 $100 allotments or purchases. And now you want to buy $100 here? Great. If it pulls back 8,000 points, your $100 is now worth, whatever, $60 or $70 or whatever, right? And you're not going to care. You're not going to make any money, but you're really not going to be in a weak hand position where you're going to be scared out or forced out. In fact, you'll be looking to put on your second purchase in that situation, and now you'll be averaging in. So that's one thing to consider when it does something like this. Now, if Bitcoin breaks out and you bought your $100 worth, hey, at least you have a little piece of it as it goes higher. You want to buy your second 100 on the breakout attempt at 41.5 or 42K, fine. You're averaging in at a slightly higher price, but again, you're not throwing all your $1,000 in there at one price. That's a way to control risk. You can do this in terms of time. So like the 1st of the month and the 15th of the month. You make a purchase no matter what the price is, okay? And you're going to have an average price over time. Now, of course, we're near Bitcoin highs. So if there's a very dramatic pullback, obviously you're going to take some pain. This thing can possibly test 27. It's possible, maybe the low 20s. It's hard to believe, but it can happen. So you have to be prepared for that. Anyway, that's what I'd suggest if you missed it and you want to still be involved with a small bite. That's something to consider. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Let me move on now to the other markets because you know how I talk for way too long. So I want to talk about the stock market real quick. Oh, we had a question. Hold on. Before I get off of Bitcoin, let me go over Litecoin real quick. Okay. I mean, look, 46K, scammer, it's a nice name. 46K is definitely, with this structure, it's definitely within reason. Okay, I mean, I have to say that. It's within reason. Okay, now something like Litecoin. Michael asked here about Litecoin here. And as the alternative trade. So he missed the Bitcoin trade and took Litecoin instead. Now, Litecoin's got a similar buy. It's got a similar buy situation. And look, Litecoin, is it a garbage coin? No, it's been doing what Bitcoin's been doing. It's pretty much been following along. It's not making new all-time highs, but it's been performing in line. Okay, that's good enough, especially since half of these garbage altcoins can't even break minor resistance levels while Bitcoin's pushing all-time highs. That's a bad sign if your altcoin is doing something like that. That means there's no money flowing into it. Okay, so as far as Michael, your situation here, Bitcoin is your lead, as you know. So if Bitcoin pulls back, that's when you're going to have a problem. You can manage risk in a similar way, that with that maybe that 104 low, or perhaps you want to use this 112 low, which was an extreme low, right? You can consider those levels to manage risk from. But my thing with Litecoin is, when Bitcoin breaks out, Litecoin better be breaking out, or at least testing its high. It better be doing that. If it's not doing it, that's a sign of weakness, okay? So that's what I'd watch out for in something like this. So if Bitcoin like pushes 42,000, 42.5, 43, okay, cool. Litecoin should be doing something similar. If Bitcoin turns around and fakes out around 42 or 43, whatever, blah, 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 that kind of thing, I would expect a fake out on Litecoin. That's your cue to make an adjustment, whether it's, lighten up on some, tighten your stop, something along those lines, okay? But look, overall, the argument is bullish, right? Because we have a higher low, just like Bitcoin, and I would anticipate the higher high, just like Bitcoin. So, it's not a bad idea. Same with Ethereum, right? As long as Bitcoin is doing its job, these things should follow. Just have to watch for that fake out because relatively speaking, they're not as strong, okay? But they're not weak either. So I'll mention that. Now, let me see what else we have here. Okay, so we're going to talk about those stocks. Anna wanted to know about Nikola and BNGO. Okay, so let me get into stocks here a little bit, and then, well, Gabriel, would you say that it can retest 27K? It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. At this moment, it's less likely. 27K is a major level, by the way, okay? And it's the trend support it needs to hold. If price takes out 27.5, that would confirm for me consolidation mode, okay? Not necessarily a bearish trend, although it will take a bearish move to get there. I would be more into consolidation mode, which means I lower my profit targets and I lower my expectations. That's all it means, okay? And I'll use different pieces of market information to guide my swing trades, which is not the same as investments or position trades. Okay, so these other questions about DOT and all that stuff, I'm going to get to those. Let me just move on here with the stock market and a couple of stocks and then gold, and then I'm going to get to your questions, okay? So let's first take a look at the NASDAQ 100 NSX USD. And this is the CFD of the NASDAQ 100. I like to use this in place of the futures. And this has been a mixed market, mixed. Okay, we had the breakout right the other day. Everyone's throwing a party, gives it back. Everyone's getting bearish. In fact, I was looking for UVXY calls to basically take a short position on the market. And yesterday's candle and even today's candle offered much more attractive prices for those calls. But it's a tough trade, okay? Because although this looks bearish, right? We have a potential lower high developing right here. Especially if we close weak. We're going to close in, 40 minutes? So if we get that weak close and we take out that low tomorrow, that's a sell signal. Now, is that a bear market? No, it's not a bear market. It is a sell signal. So here are the supports we need to watch. What is that? 12,779 basically. So that's going to translate to about 12,750 or something. Maybe 12,725 on the futures. Then you have to watch for 12,540. So basically 12,5. If those supports are taken out, then most likely we're in corrective mode, okay, where we can see that broader correction. Now at that point, by that point, those UVXY calls, and any kind of short position you've taken is going to be in the money. So that you would be chasing at that point. So the idea is to position yourself now. All right. Again, it's not a conservative trade. It's counter trend because you are going against the broader trend. Someone in the chat room earlier mentioned that a lot of fund managers and all these people are expecting a large pullback very soon and all this and all that. And here's the thing, if it's out in the public like that, you should consider it with a grain of salt. Now, based on this location, do I agree with something like that? Sure, because it's near a major peak, and it's starting to get top heavy up here. It's starting to get reluctant, but the trend hasn't changed yet. So is it okay to take aggressive short positions? Sure, as long as you're managing your risk carefully. You can buy puts on the Qs, you can buy puts on the SPY, you can buy calls on the UVXY. I mean, there's a number of things you can do. If it doesn't work out and the market starts pushing highs, you're going to take a loss. Okay, but I'd rather play a game like this with options because the risk is so limited on options, and I don't have to sit there and get caught shorting a stock that's going to be gapping up on me and all this and all that. Right? You risk a few $100s and whatever on one or two contracts, whatever. With something like this, you don't have to buy a lot of time. You don't need to buy 6-month options on something like this because if the move is going to occur, it should be within a couple of weeks. Okay, so 2-month option is pretty good. March options are pretty decent in this situation, or you could buy February and then roll to March. That's what we want to do with UVXY. And I still may send that out, okay? But, these previous few days have been tricky. So keep that in mind. Now, what does this mean for stocks? If this is the peak, okay, and this thing starts to pull back, because look, we've had some pullbacks earlier, right? Look, this was some kind of pulling back. People get very bearish there. We had a little pullback over here, but the pullbacks don't go very far, right? They get bought up right away. So is this going to start breaking supports? That's the key thing that needs to happen. That's the first thing. So like I said, you have to get in early on some of these sometimes to get the best prices, and that's really the best way to play them. And if you're wrong, you take the loss. But it's counter trend. Now, generally for highly correlated market stocks, if this thing pulls back, you're going to see pullback across the board. You're going to see tech stocks. You're going to see the semiconductors get hammered. You're going to see stocks like Qualcomm and Microsoft and Intel and the FANG stocks. They're all going to get hammered because they're highly correlated to the market. All right, now, same with the S&P. Let's take a look at that real quick because that's a broader gauge. All right, and look, same situation. Although the S&P is consolidating rather than showing a clear-cut lower high. You can argue that's a lower high in there, but this is still a consolidation. It can break higher. That's why you can't overdo it, okay? So just something to keep in mind. This is why, again, we prefer to short something like the Qs rather than finding stocks, because if you're wrong, it sucks, okay? So just something to keep in mind there. There may be another leg higher in this thing. It's possible. All right, so anyway, I just want to mention that. Now, real quick, let me go over gold, because gold and the US dollar are important. So gold has had this pullback, right? When Bitcoin had that rally, gold had this senseless pullback. And it found support around that 1840 area, which we've been talking about. As you can see, it gave us a bullish pin bar. We actually sent out a swing trade idea based on that. We've been buying, we've been accumulating gold mining stocks in this situation. Now, let me point out something about gold. As you could see, and I've mentioned this before if you watch previous videos, the August peak to the December low and to where we are right now, here's a December low, that is one gigantic range. That is what a wave 4 typically looks like, and Bitcoin can do something similar. I'm not saying it will, but you must be open to the possibility. If you see that start to develop, then you'll have a better idea. But as you can see, from August till December, that's quite a few months, and it sucks, okay? And there's a lot of false starts, a lot of false breakouts, and all that kind of stuff. And gold has been fundamentally strong the whole time. So don't go by fundamentals. So anyway, still liking gold long. Look at this candle situation right now. Let me just highlight this a bit. Look at this candle situation. So we had the inside, we had the hammer, right, or the pin bar, followed by the green candle, which was the buy candle. and it's just been kind of hesitating. What I like about this situation is it's hesitating at a clear-cut support level. I like that. We get this higher low developed into here, I would expect a breakout of this 1863 high, and that's going to be good for mining stocks. That's going to be good for the CFD. Okay. Now, what does that say about the dollar? Because there's been some talk about the dollar recovering. All right. Hold on. So let me pull up the dollar index here. This dollar index is still in a bearish trend. Yes, it's trying to recover a bit, but as long as the general fundamentals, now fundamentals are very important when it comes to the US dollar, because it's basically a measure, the dollar index basically gives us a sense of inflation or not, right? And that's what it responds to. Any type of news that changes, that hints toward inflation or hints toward non-inflation, like FOMC meetings, if they hint toward rate hikes or rate easing, whatever, any kind of talk like that. NFP can, you know, if there's less jobs, that means there's a less likely chance of rising interest rates, that kind of stuff. That's going to affect this. And if this thing continues to stay in its bearish trend, that's actually a bullish sign for a lot of assets, okay? Forex pairs, gold, stocks, anything that basically you use to put money into to hedge against inflation, right? Right now at this moment, the US dollar has this resistance right here at 90, whatever, like that 90.5 area, hasn't taken out any major resistances. So as long as it does not do that, I mean, yes, we have a failed low and an attempt at a bounce, but that's not necessarily a trend reversal. It's just a bounce, right? And if it can't take out any resistances, that means the trend hasn't changed yet. So I would be looking for a break of that low. And in light of the current situation here with the way they're handling monetary policy, I would be more likely to believe that we test the low. Now, again, I don't use fundamentals to make trading decisions, but with that, you know, in the background, as long as this trend is intact, I would be anticipating the break of low, which again is a sign of strength for other assets. Something to keep in mind. All right. It doesn't guarantee anything, just something to keep in mind. All right. So those are the things I wanted to cover. I see a lot of questions in the chat. So let me go back here. And so I know I answered a couple of them about Bitcoin. Now, Anna had a question about Nicola and BNGO. Also, I believe Nicholas, actually Nicholas in our other chat asked a question about, he had a question about reefer, R-E-F-R, right? And Research Frontiers. This is not a reefer. You would think it'd be a cannabis stock. You know, the cannabis sector has actually been doing very well recently. No, reefer is not a cannabis stock. Research Frontiers, it's called. So look at this. He bought this thing from, I think, 2 something. And his question was, should he hold on to it? What should he do? Well, when something like this goes vertical, I mean, what a nice move, right? When something like this goes vertical, and like I told him in the chat room, it's always a good idea to lock something in, whether it's 10%, 15%. Take something off the table, capitalize on the herd mentality while they are there buying, okay? Because these, again, are reactive herd mentality traders. They're sitting there on their Robinhood account. This thing pops up on their radar. They buy some. They have no idea what they're doing. They're giving you their money. It's your chance to get out if you own from lower prices. That is what a professional does. That is what, you know, smart money does. They're in from lower prices, whether because they had better information than you, whatever the reason. And when everyone piles in, because this is a very speculative and frothy environment, that's your time to unload and reduce your risk. So again, now Nicholas was saying he wants to sell half. I said, well, that's up to you. You know, you may want to sell less than half because there's no sell signal here yet. It may pull back, but there's no sell signal. So I would suggest, again, something like lock in 20% or something, and then use a trailing stop. You know, trail by 2 candles or 1 candle and see if this thing wants to go higher. At least you still have a piece of it. And if it gives you a sell signal, you sell some more, right? But as long as it's green, it's still green. People have this idea, and it's not your fault. It's human nature. People have this idea that, you know, they want to be all in, all out, and they want to take as much profit out as possible because, you know, everything works in absolutes. But the market is the furthest thing from absolute. It's highly random. You're never going to get the top. You're never going to get the bottom. If you happen to, it's random. So the idea is to be effective as the conditions offer you opportunities. This right here is an opportunity to take profit, lock something in, and if it goes higher, great, you're still in some. If it turns and gives you a clear sell signal, lock the rest of it in, or lock more of it in if you want to hold the core position and see where it goes. I mean, this thing has potential. He says he believed it can go like into the sixes. It's possible. I mean, that's not too far away. It's possible. So a lot of these are a gamble. You just have to give them that chance. Let the market do the work. Don't try to, outthink the market, because it's never going to happen. All right, so I just wanted to mention that one. Now, Anna asks here about Nikola. I'm very interested in Nikola. I've talked about it a number of times. It held that support at that 13, basically 13 area after it had its negative news a little while back, and it's starting to perk up. Okay, it took out some resistances, which is also a very important thing. You have this little higher low develop here. So I like Nikola for a long. I don't like it where it's currently at right now, because you're kind of chasing there a bit if you get into this thing now. But this thing can very easily pull back. All right, very easily, because especially this one, because it's probably the least popular of all these, and people dump this thing right away, right? So I would anticipate a pullback on something like this to perhaps that maybe 17 or 18 area. And something like Nikola, here's one thing I would consider is deep out of the money options. You can buy the $30 call options on something like this. Again, you can't buy 1 month out. You need to buy 6 months out, okay, or more. And if you get them cheap, right, you're not going to get them cheap when it's at a high. You're going to get them cheap when you have a red candle, right? So if Nikola pulls back a bit and you get some red candles, you could probably get, June or July options on this thing. If you can get them for less than $2 or $2 or something like that, that's pretty good for that much time. All this thing needs to do is have a good couple of weeks, okay? A good couple of weeks, and you can double or triple your investment. I like to play that game with these because if you're wrong, the most you could lose is that option premium. Okay, so if you pay $2 for one contract, it's $200, and you're wrong, and you hold on to it, the most you could lose is $200. If Nikola has some negative news again and it goes back below to $13 or whatever, as opposed to buying the stock, right, and you're tying up, $2,000, right, for 100 shares, the thing goes to $10, you're out $1,000, okay? I'd rather risk $200 than get caught with $1,000. Of course, you could put a stop in there, but I just like that potential that options offer with such a small outlay relative to what you can make. All right, so that's what I'd consider. I like Nikola. I'd wait for a pullback. All right, especially since it's starting to break resistances now. Again, I'm looking at this from a short-term technical perspective. I don't care what their fundamentals are. A lot of times, fundamentals will change during this period, and of course, they're not going to come out with them. They're not going to come out and announce, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Whatever's going on behind the scenes, the insiders know, the smart money knows, and that's why you have a change, okay? You're not going to see Cramer come out on CNBC and say, okay, we got this higher low over here, I'm buying. He's not going to do that, all right? They start chasing it after it gets on everyone's radar. So that's when you want to be in and be prepared to sell to those people. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. Now, BNGO. I saw this one, someone mentioned this. This you can't, this is a nutty one, right? This is nuts. You missed this, okay, I understand. It pulls back and it's just like in everyone's face again. You can't touch this right now, all right? It's too speculative, it's too frothy. It's back at these highs. Chasing it, you're asking for trouble, right? That could be a double top. There's no way to know. A lot of times what people do in these situations is they'll buy it because it looks good. It'll run maybe a few more points. They make some money. They close the position and they say, oh, that was easy, right? And they do that every time. Well, there's going to be that time where you buy into it, you get caught at the top, and it'll come back. It'll come back. It always comes back, right? And then you're going to see one of those situations where it goes all the way to like $2 and you're like, oh, market sucks. It's rigged. Market makers, day traders, the high frequency traders. You're going to blame someone besides yourself. All right, so I would just stay away from this. If you want to buy something like BNGO, at least wait for a support, and that would be right there, $4. And if it's not at $4, go look for something else. There's so many other things out there, okay? So that's what I'd suggest on that one. Thank you for asking about that. Now let me see what else we have here. Laura, okay, so I talked about that. Gabriel, I answered that. Hey, Alice, can you look in trim levels for DOT, please? Trimmed at 10. Okay, DOT. So DOT, USD, I believe that's, you're talking about this. Yeah, nice trade, Alice. So he trimmed at 10. Nice. Okay. So he took that breakout, got out of some there. Looking to trim some more at 17. Bought at 5. Well, real nice trade. So at this point, Alice, there's no reason to sell, right? This thing's vertical. So let the herd do their job. I would say, what you can do here is put a target at 17, see if it gets there. It's a little out of the way, but hey, anything's possible. You can put some for sale there, see if it gets there. Now, while you're waiting for something like that, another thing you could do just to protect yourself, because you're locked in some profit, is use the trailing stop method, right? Go 2 bars behind. So right now you could put your stop right below this low right here, which is what, $8. And then after tomorrow's candle, if tomorrow makes a higher high, you could put your stop over here at 1064, right? And again, that's not to get out of your entire position. That's just to get out of another portion of it, right? Because if this thing overall has strength, I mean, you do have a higher low there. This is arguably a bullish trend. So you may get like a little pullback or something. And it's nice to hold on to a little piece of it in case it makes that next leg higher, especially if we're anticipating Bitcoin going higher. I mean, look, relative to Bitcoin, this thing is doing its job, right? It's made a higher high and Bitcoin's trying. So, if it's going to play that game, then it's worth giving it a try. Okay, so that's what I'd say on something like that. At least let the market work and give it a chance, okay, as you're reducing your risk as it goes higher and higher. Okay, so good question. Let me see what else here. I'm just catching up here. Michael, so perhaps the best raise to stop an LTC when BTC is pushing high. Michael, that's not a bad idea. You could do that to protect yourself because again, that fake out it can happen fast. So Irina says, if Bitcoin's 4th wave makes a higher high, but then tests supports, does then it trend higher or is it the signal that we've topped? All right, so so back to Bitcoin. If we make the higher high, right? Because it's possible for wave 4 to make the higher high, right? Lure everyone in because they think it's a breakout, and then it fails, right? It's possible. So if you see something like that, her question then is, but then it tests supports, does it trend higher? So no, it's not necessarily a signal that we've topped. It's a temporary top, but it is likely a signal that we're in consolidation, right? That's what wave 4 is. So if we consolidate, I would expect to stay in that consolidation for some time, which means I would expect more false breakouts if it tries to break out again. I would expect supports to hold at 32, or if it breaks 32, I'd be looking at the 30 or 27K area. I would be expecting those supports to hold because a wave 4 is not a bearish trend. A wave 4 is just a consolidation of a broader bullish trend. So the supports are going to be very attractive in those situations, right? Very high probability for swing trades and position trades. That's what I'd be looking for if we get that scenario. And I'd be very likely to take trades or send out swing trades in those areas. All right, because again, it's not a bearish trend. Now, at the same time, you're going to see a lot of gurus and a lot of fakes calling for shorts at those lows. They go, oh, Bitcoin's in a bearish trend now. Oh, Bitcoin's garbage, blah, blah, blah. You're going to see that at those lows. That's very typical. But you have to remember the levels, and you have to remember that what is in play is this move. Okay? What is in play is the move since the October bottom, not this little nonsense consolidation that we may see, which can span over an 8,000 or 10,000 point range. Okay? So I hope that answers your question there. Let me see. Laura, at what point would you consider taking profit of Ethereum Litecoin you bought before? What do you have to see in the chart to know it is time to sell? Or is it important to accumulate coins? Okay, so now Laura, when you say Ethereum Litecoin, do you mean Ethereum against Litecoin or do you mean Ethereum and Litecoin, like separately? So to answer your question, how do you know what do you have to see to consider taking profit? Well, it's going to depend on two things, and let's go back to let me pull. I haven't shown Ethereum yet. Let me see. I have Ethereum up here. No, I have my stock thing there. Let me go back to Litecoin. So in these situations, let me erase some of this stuff so it's less confusing. the first thing you need to know, Laura, is are you in this as an investment or are you in this as a swing trade? That's the first question that you need to answer. Now, once you have that question answered, that's going to determine how you manage the position. As a swing trader, like I was telling Michael before, because he was talking about a swing trade in Litecoin, if this thing develops a sell signal, which can come in a few forms, like a reversal pattern at this resistance. A reversal pattern could be a bearish pin bar. It could be an inside bar with the low getting taken out. It could be a number of things, right? Okay, that developed there. Then that would be a sell signal. Now, a sell signal doesn't necessarily mean a change in trend, but it means bearish momentum is likely to follow. How far will it go? There's no way to know. But that's a point as a short-term swing trader, you could say, okay, I'm going to make an adjustment here. I'm going to reduce my risk. I'm going to either take some more, lock in some more profit because I don't want to take the chance that this thing pulls all the way back to 100. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean it won't fake out and then go higher. What did I sell for? You're taking the precaution if you get a sell signal here. Now, that's one scenario. That's the short-term oriented swing trade scenario. Now, as a position trader or investor in those situations, you can also use that, but it's a little different as an investor because as an investor, you want to average in and average out. So if it's pushing an area and it's looking great, it's going vertical and it starts to hesitate, that's where you really have to use your discretion. It's going to be less about the chart and more about, hey, there's buyers there and I want to reduce my risk, okay? So if you're averaged in from, let's just say you're averaged in from 130 and this thing is pushing 200, hey, there's nothing wrong with taking something off the table as it goes higher and higher. One thing you can do in that situation is you start reducing your risk by selling smaller portions, and the higher it goes, the larger the portion you sell. So you may start out, like let's say, you want to sell 5% on the first, once it starts pushing highs, you sell 5%. That's nothing. And then it pushes higher and it starts to hesitate. Okay, now you sell maybe 10%. Okay, so far you've sold 15%. It starts to push higher and it starts to, maybe push a major number like 300 or whatever. I'm just making this up. Perhaps it's something extreme like that. You sell 20%. Okay, and now you're averaging out as it goes higher because the higher it goes, the risk of retrace is more and more increased. You want to unload more and more as you can. Okay, so those are the two different mentalities you have to consider. So it's as a swing trader, things can be more precise with very specific targets, and you could use trailing stops. As an investor, you're really just looking to average out of stuff when buyers are available. It's really more of a behavioral thing. Whole numbers are a good reference point for that, like 200, 250, 300, things like that. Also, the strength of the candle, right? Like right now in Litecoin, there's nothing to do here. It's just green. There's no sell signal. It's not that there's nothing special going on. There's nothing to do. Okay, so I hope that answers your question there. I mean, it's not the easiest question to answer. Or is it important to accumulate coins? That's the mentality of a position trader. That's something that you have to decide if you want to do. It's not that it's important or not important. It's a matter of if that's your choice. Like you like Litecoin, you want to be an owner of Litecoin, you're looking at the 5-year time horizon on Litecoin, then you're an accumulator of Litecoin. And again, you can go back to when it gets hammered and starts pushing lows and like, oh, that's a good price, 112, blah, blah, blah. I'll throw in $100. But you have to have a plan though, right? You can't just randomly throw in $100. Like you have to say, okay, look, I have $1,000 I want to invest. I want to invest $1,000 in Litecoin. That's a small portion of my entire portfolio. Let's say your portfolio is $10,000 and you want to put 10% into Litecoin, right? That's $1,000. You're not going to buy it all at one price. So where do you want to buy it? You can buy it at different prices. The thing is, the lower, if it starts pushing lows, those are going to be more attractive prices. Think of it as going to the supermarket and everything is on sale, right? That's when you want to start putting in, you want to buy just a little bit more, but not too much to where if there's a dramatic low, you're scared out of the position. That's the key thing. That is how you control your risk with position sizing. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Nicholas, I just joined. Thanks for going over reefer. Hey, no problem. Okay, I skipped some questions here. Let me go back. Okay, so Michael, if you have some time, take a look at BLI. We talked about it, but the setup, but I like the setup now near the low consolidate. Okay, so Berkeley Lights, BLI. This is one of those gene stocks, pharmaceutical, biotech, whatever. And we had a swing trade on this one a little while back. And I mean, this thing's been kind of all over the place. But what was the high there? 99.80 was our target 3. And it's pulled back since, right? So now, Michael, it's in an attractive location. Okay, you definitely have a support in this area here. What is that? The 82.5 area? Not bad. You have an inside bar that developed today, okay, and this is going to be closing very soon. So this is possibly a failed low. One thing, so if you want to take something like this, okay, you're not in a bad location. Now, one thing you're competing with here is the lower high, right? You're dealing with that, so that could be problematic, but it's tried to make that lower low and so far has failed. Also, we can argue that the trend is bullish, right? I don't see lower highs and lower lows. I see higher lows and higher highs overall, even though this little section here is a little more, hesitant, we can say. But okay, not bad. So the next question you have to ask is, what about your risk? So if you get involved in something like this at a break of this candle high right here, which is 86, so you figure 86.25 would be like a good buy stop. The stop loss 79.20, so 79, you have to give it a little bit more room in that, so 79 even, maybe 78.5, something like that. So what are you looking at? So you're looking at a good, 5 or 6 or 7 points of risk, something like that. And then you have to ask yourself, well, what's reasonable potential? The middle of the range is often a good place because a lot of times it'll try to test the middle, even if it's not going anywhere, right? It'll try to do that. So you're looking at the mid 90s. So if you're buying this thing, again, at like mid 80s, try to make 10 points, you're risking about 6 or 7. The reward risk is sensible. Okay, it is sensible. And if it breaks out and goes further, hey, you got yourself a nice trade. So I like it. I like the location. I like the overall trend. It makes sense. It's just if it breaks that low, you have to take that stop, right? And it may fake out. You've seen this before, like on AMD and some of these other ones where it breaks the low, gets you out, and then just turns right around. That happens in these things sometimes. So if you see something like that, if you're stopped out, just be prepared to get back in. It sucks. It's annoying. But that's the nature of these things sometimes. But overall, I like the reward risk. I like the stock. I like the general structure. Again, I'm looking at this from a technical perspective. Okay, I know you know that, but other people watching may not realize that. I don't care much about the fundamentals. It's a very short-term oriented swing trade mentality. Okay, so thanks for the question. Let me see, Kev. How about GORO for gold? I think it was one of Dave's picks. Okay, GORO. Yeah, as we know, we're very into gold. Especially with gold trying to turn around and its senseless pullback. So Gold Resource Corporation is their name. Okay, yeah, definitely, Kev. Location is good. You do have some bearish momentum recently. Let's point out some levels here. So you have this low right here, basically October of $2.67. Inexpensive too. You have the inside bar. You have a pin bar very recently on that. Bullish pin bar, so it's not bad. This thing can run to 370. That's its recent high. Okay, that's not bad either. The question is, what is the risk you're looking at? Probably like $1. What's the low here? 274. So you figure 250-ish. Yeah, around 250. That's a good place for a stop because it really has no business going to 250 if it's going to reverse and stay strong. I mean, this structure is I've seen better things out there, but you know what? We can't argue with the level. It's definitely a support, and you know your risk. So the potential, you're risking about $1 to try to make maybe $1, maybe more than $1.50. Perhaps it'll break out if gold has a nice run. Then, I'm assuming this thing follows gold. So yeah, it's worthwhile. I like it. I definitely like it. Dave usually has a very good perspective on things as far as, he's all technical. And so that makes sense that he called it. Okay, Nicholas, all right, no problem. Stel, DXY, okay. So let's talk about, now I mentioned that earlier, the dollar index. So again, now we could talk about these wedges and all that, and that's a lot of times when you get those situations, like this situation here, right? And often it'll unfold. People focus on the wedge, but you know what I focus on? I focus on the failed low, because really that's where the move comes from, right? All these people that get short on the breakout or whatever, and they get caught, and that's why you get squeezed. And that's cool. I've seen this many times. But like I said, in something that's bearish, like a bearish trends, they do not take out resistance levels. Okay, typically they do not do that. They take out supports. So far, that's all this thing's been doing, right? And I don't see any resistance levels taken out. So until it proves itself, I have no opinions as far as a dollar bull or a dollar recovery. It needs to prove itself. And look at today's pin bar. Definitely, if I was shorting the dollar index, that would definitely be a short signal right there. All right, off of a resistance like that, it'd be a little bit aggressive because you're near a low, but hey, I'd go for that. So yeah, I try not to get opinionated as far as like those wedges and all that stuff because they can kind of throw you off sometimes. Okay, thanks for bringing that up. HS, ETH, USDT. Okay, so let's take a look. Ethereum. So Ethereum has been a Bitcoin follower, got the higher low, right? That's good. We want to see that. As Bitcoin makes that higher high, I expect the same from Ethereum, right? So Ethereum had the very same, almost exactly the same buy signal, okay? Had the inside bar the other day. Yesterday, it didn't take it out right away, but eventually it took it out, okay? So in Bitcoin had a similar situation, although Bitcoin was a little bit more compelling. Okay, fine. But you got the buy signal, just like Litecoin. They're all doing the same thing. So if Bitcoin fails, watch for the failed high. That's what you need to watch for. If you're in it, that's your opportunity to reduce risk, to tighten your stop, to do something. Don't sit there and go into hope mode and say, oh, it'll come back. It always comes back. You don't know, right? So the idea is to capitalize on buying activity when it's available. And that would be a great spot. So just something to keep in mind. At this point, I'd be expecting the higher high because we do have the higher low. And this trend is bullish, okay? Going all the way back to that March low. Nothing bearish about that. So I'd be looking for that higher high. Again, this is all dependent on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin runs to 46 or higher, I'd expect a nice breakout on this thing to follow because it's following. All right, that's how I look at it right now. If Bitcoin fails and this thing doesn't even break its high, then you're in consolidation mode, all right? And I'd be looking for a test of supports at that point. And that could be a buying opportunity. The mid 950s maybe, high 900s, 980, 990, you know, something like that. What is this around here? Yeah, somewhere around, or maybe the low 1000s. I'd be looking for that consolidation to develop and like the double bottom, the broad double bottom in a broader bullish trend type of situation. Okay, kind of like that BLI chart. I'd be looking for something like this in Ethereum. See this situation right here? It's got like a double bottom, looks like a lower high, and everyone is probably calling for a short. If you see this in Ethereum, everyone's going to be calling for a short and saying Ethereum's going back to 300, blah, blah, blah. And then if you get the fake out, it's a long. Okay, so that's the kind of scenario I'd be looking for in something like that. These things right now are not shorts. I don't care what anyone says. If you're a day trader and you're trying to day trade it, that's a different story, but it's not worth the risk. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. So Gabriel, 3 questions. Can we look at XMR? Okay, that's first question. XMR USD. How am I doing with time here? Okay, not too bad. So Monero. Monero has been, in recent time, Monero has been a leader, right? An outperformer. Like Bitcoin hadn't even made highs yet and this thing was breaking. So that's a good sign. That's something that's relatively strong. Now, then there was that news that they were being delisted, privacy coins, blah, 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 right? And that's what this was over here, this red situation. Okay, fine. Everyone's calling for shorts again, and then they get squeezed out. Okay, no problem. We're used to that. Now, it took out that 169, and it failed to go much higher. You see this? This is what I'm talking about with Ethereum and Litecoin. This is what I'm talking about. This is what it will look like if Bitcoin cannot hold its gain. If it breaks, like if Bitcoin breaks 42 and cannot sustain that break, this is what I'm looking for from these altcoins, right? This exact situation. So right now you have a potential lower high developing. I would hold off on this right now. Okay, you have this little attempt at, this little pop-up attempt over here, but I don't know. I don't like this. This is not clear. You're near a resistance. You have a potential failure in your face, and this is a reversal zone. So if anything with Monero, I'd be looking for longs at a test of support, which right now is 138. Okay, so that's what I'd tell you about that one. Now that was question number 1. Number 2, can you show us how you use fib channels and fib time zones and any other fib things? Well, okay, so fib channels and fib time zones, I don't use them. I don't really think they're necessary. I mean, a fib channel, you know, if you go to TradingView, TradingView's got some great tools here, right? So you can look at like, you know, let's see if I can find the fib channel. So basically it's taking channel lines, right? You want to basically find a low, right? And then you want to basically project it from a high type of thing, right? Something like that. Or no, I got that mixed up wrong. As you can see, I don't use these things. Basically, what you're doing is you're measuring a channel, but instead of a standard channel line, right? You're drawing. What you're doing is you're drawing trend lines. This is what you're doing. Okay, you're drawing trend lines. You have to basically pick a low and a high, and it's supposed to project forward. I don't use the channels, and I don't use the time. The time is another thing. With the time, you pick a peak to a peak, right? Or a low to a low, and it's supposed to project the next high or low. It's random. So I don't find that to be very useful. What I use as far as fibs go is just a simple retracement and projection. That's it. So when it comes to like a retracement, you know, we'll go to the retracement tool. You know, you're just looking to measure a low to a high, for example, and that will give you, going forward, when you measure a low to a high, you're measuring for support levels, right, going forward. Just to give you an example on here, if I had measured the November low to the, what is that, December high, if I had only that information going forward, right, it helped me. The 50% area was where it reversed. Okay, 50% to the 61.8% area is where it reversed, right? So it helps me kind of determine where potential levels are. But again, people like to go absolutes with these things, and people like to take it too literal. You can't, because it's random until price actually proves itself at a level. All right, so it just serves as reference points. All right, same with the projection tool. So I hope that answers your question there. That's number 2. Oh, no third question. Okay, no problem. Let me know if you have any more questions about that. Laura, yes, both separate. Thank you. Okay, no problem. Irina, you should post your article, Want to be a Day Trader. It helped me a great deal to find what type of trader investor I am. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Irina. I have to find it. I have to find a link for that. Kev, I got the June 5 call for 25 cents. June $5 call. That's for 25 cents. That's a good price. Okay, so you have 6 months for this thing to move. Well, $5 is maybe a little tough for this thing, but so $5 is the peak, right? A lot of times it's a good idea, Kev, to instead of picking the high of the range, which is just a lower probability. It's harder for this thing to reach. Okay, a lot of times it's better to buy the middle of the range, the call at the middle. So it's going to be a little bit more money than 25 cents, but the chance of it testing 3 or almost 4 or coming close to it in a short period of time, basically like a month or maybe a couple of weeks, is much greater. And those call options with that much time will be worth something more than what you're paying for them now. So let's just say these cost the $3 or $3.50. I don't know if there's a $3.50 strike, but the $3 strike, let's say it cost 75 cents. Okay, so maybe 3 times more. But if price gets near there in a short time, meaning it takes the next month and gold starts to push to 2,000, and this thing gets there, that 75-cent call will be now worth probably close to $2 or something like that, because not only do you now the delta will increase the price of the option as it gets closer and closer to being in the money, but the premiums inflate. Okay, because more and more people start buying calls, and they become out of proportion, and that's what you want to see: inflated premiums, especially if there's a lot of time left in the option. So you buy a 6-month option, and in 1 month the stock does its thing. You still have 5 months of time value. So that usually gets a lot of inflation, and that's what you want to see in those things, because time is always working against you. So 25 cents is good. I would just pick a closer strike price and pay a little bit more. I made that mistake with NYCB, right? And DJ bought the $10 for January. This was back in like October. I bought the $12. He made money. I didn't make money. I paid next to nothing on the calls, but still, you know, it went through 10 and it's just almost at 12, but there's only a couple of days to go. I don't think it's going to make it through 12, right? So they go worthless. But what did I risk? 75 bucks for a lot of contracts. So if it worked out, it would have been a nice, easy win. So that's what you have to keep in mind, okay? Okay, Ricky, hey, just joining in. I've been holding Link, okay? Some around 19. What do you think the next targets would be? All right, so let's take a look. Chainlink, right? So LINK, USD. And I mean, this one's been, I remember this one was really popular recently. Let me see if I can find a better chart with more time on it. Let me see, Link. Let me see here. Can I get a better chart? Does Coinbase have a good chart? Let's see. Yeah, that's a good chart. All right, it's going to be pretty much the same chart, right? So you're in from $2.50. Wow, Ricky, that's a really good entry. And got out of some at 19. All right, so the next targets on something like this, look, you have a good situation here, Ricky. You have the higher low, just like Bitcoin. That's what you want to see. Now, this one was hesitant for a little while. And I was saying, man, this thing sucks, right? All during this. But look, it played catch up. Okay, that's fine. Now, what you want to see is the breakout, right? And it looks like it's going to go for it. Okay, cool. So as far as next targets go, I have a target here of 25. Let's see where I got that from. Probably, did I get it from history? No, that's probably a projection target there. So the 25 area is one area. Also, keep in mind, whole numbers tend to act as support and resistance, right? There's a tendency, no guarantee. So one area to consider, Ricky, one area to consider is maybe, so you got out of some at 19, so that basically counts as 20, right? So you got out of some while you had a chance. Okay, that's great. That's what you want to do. So I would look for that breakout. If it fails again, if it can't clear that 20, like if you get a situation like back here, if you get something like that, then it would probably be a good idea to perhaps unload a little bit more. Again, you don't have to get out of the whole position, right? Because especially if you own it from such a good price, why not let it run, right? I mean, you're in free and clear. Why not try to let it run? So as it goes higher, if it can't break, maybe get rid of another 5%, right? Or maybe 10%. But I would, if Bitcoin is going to have a big move and you're going to see Bitcoin pushing 46 or whatever, I'd be expecting this thing to push into those mid-20s. It should be doing it in a similar fashion, especially with this higher low here. I'd be expecting that higher high. So again, if it gives you a hard time, unload a little bit more just to capitalize on the herd mentality and then see if it can go further. Another thing you can do, again, in these situations, is put the trailing stop. All right, you have to do it manually, but do it that way where, you put the stop, you go 2 candles behind, you put the stop just below the low, right? And then as it pushes higher and higher, you just keep trailing that stop. Again, not for your entire position. So let's say your next allotment that you want to unload, let's just say it's 30% of your position. You just put a trailing stop for 30%, okay? And it goes, it turns around, knocks you out. You just sold 30%, but at least you gave the market a chance. You're never going to get the top, especially doing a trailing stop, because it has to turn around and stop you out, right? So, but what you're doing is you're giving the market a chance to really perform without any opinions and just not getting in its way. A lot of people will second guess, oh, it's too high, I need to get out. It's too high. It might be too high. It might go higher. A lot of times when it goes vertical, it's not going to go much longer, but you want to let the market pay, and do it. Let the market work until it wants to turn around. Let the market come up with the answers, right? You don't have to come up with the answers. All you have to do is adjust. So good question on that one. Nice trade, Ricky. Man. Yeah. Okay, so I think I answered everyone's questions, and we're just over an hour into this. Do I have any other questions? Again, if you're new to Greenbridge, if you like the video that I made here, please press the like button and register for the channel just to let me know that this is a worthwhile effort. Because again, I get very discouraging feedback that these are not worth anyone's time. Meanwhile, I get all these great questions, and I see a lot of people are benefiting from this. So it seems to be very conflicted, and so I like to know that people are benefiting from it. Anyway, so thank you for that. If you have any other questions, please let me know. If I missed your question, I think I got them all. If I missed your question, come over to greenbridgeinvesting.com. We do have a free chat room there where you can ask questions in there as well. I see people have been asking some questions. Okay, that's cool. We may not answer them right away, but we will get to them. Of course, we have our swing trade signal service by text, by email. We have our portfolio management ideas by email. And we also have trade of the week. Did you guys see NEO? Have you seen this thing? This thing took all three targets, right? NEO was a big winner recently. What was the other one that we just called? I just sent out, why can't I think of the name of it right now? I'm the one that sends these things out. It was, who can tell me? Man, why am I drawing a blank? The trade of the week was, oh man, I can't remember. There's too many of them. Let me see, it'll come to me, it'll come to me. Trade of the week was, APPS. See, it came to me. Look at this one. Look at this. I just called this well, Andrew called it on Tuesday. I sent it out early yesterday. I sent this out just around the market open, right? Today's high is 60.77. We're getting closer and closer to that first target. Look at that. Beautiful. There you go, everyone. There you go. I was just testing everyone. I really remembered. No, I'm just kidding. I couldn't remember. But look at this move. This looks like it's going to go for the breakout. What do we have here? Higher low, right? Higher low, looking for the higher high, and it looks like it's coming. So that's what we like to. That's why I was okay. I like this one because I saw the higher low. I'm like, all right, this thing is likely to break out because all the breakout traders pile in right here. Okay. So anyway, oh cool. Thanks, Gabriel. You say, HS, can you look at XTZ? All right, let me see. All right, I could take a look at that real quick. Gabriel, how much would you say you need in your portfolio to enter a yearly subscription for Greenbridge? Well, Gabriel, that's a good question. We don't have like a specific amount, but I would say a reasonable amount of money, if you're working with like $3,000, $3,000 to $5,000, you're not going to be able to take big positions. But here's the thing. People take that kind of money, $3,000 or whatever, $2,000, and they want to day trade it, or they want to see if they can double or triple it. They think that's enough money to take some very speculative trades on, and all they do is throw the money out the window. At least with our portfolio management ideas and swing trades, yes, it's going to be smaller profits that you're going to make, of course, and smaller losses, but the money is not going to vanish if you're careful, right? And following, we're very careful when it comes to risk, and we're very clear about the risks involved. So the idea is you're learning, and your account is growing slowly, as opposed to just throwing $2,500 and trying to trade this, trying to trade that. Next thing you know, you didn't get any home runs, and now it's zero, right? Which is what happens to a lot of people. So I would say $2,500 to $3,000 is a you can work with that. And if you can generate $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000 over a year, which is a large percent of that, you have to be happy with that. You're not going to turn it into $10,000 or $15,000. It's not going to happen with the type of trades that we take, okay? I mean, can it happen? It's possible if you have an options trade that turns out to be a huge winner, or you get like something like Chainlink and it happens to be a massive home run, but we don't take large positions in those type of things anyway. If you look at our swing trades, something like this, right? If we send this out to our members, this was a trade of the week, so I don't put the risk amount here. That's up to you. When we send this out to members, we put a risk amount. It'll say risk 1%, right? Like our Bitcoin trade that I sent out yesterday, which is doing okay right now. Risk 1%. That means 1% of your available capital. That does not include other positions you have on, right? Because they have their own risk associated with those. So it's very conservative. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, okay. So let me go back. We had a question about XTZ. Let me do that one real quick. XTZ. I'm starting to talk too much, and DJ is not here to stop me. XTZ. All right. So Tezos. Look, Tezos. This is a chart. I don't like this chart, and the reason is, Bitcoin. When we looked at Bitcoin, we looked at Litecoin, right? We looked at Ethereum, and they were following Bitcoin nicely. When I look at Tezos, all I see is a range. Okay, range-bound market. This tells me that there's no money flowing into it. Now again, doesn't mean that some news can't come out and next thing you know, this thing's going nuts, but the chart does not help us here. In terms of the chart, this is not a good place to buy. You're right in the middle. Anything can happen here, right? It may go higher, it may not. I would prefer on something like this, and I know Andrew's mentioned it too, wait for they pull back to a range low. That's really a more opportune time to buy something like this, because this is just a garbage coin, right? That's what the chart is telling me. Again, something can change, but look back in August, right? Everyone was going nuts for Tezos. Look at this. And then since then, it just turned to garbage, and it's been range bound ever since. That's not a coin that I'm very interested in. I want to see a nice bullish trend, okay? I want to see this, right? At least, maybe not this current price action, but I want to see higher lows and higher highs. I don't want to see a range, not when Bitcoin is pushing highs, not when Bitcoin's about to break out again. If Bitcoin was doing garbage and Bitcoin was in a range, then I'd say, okay, let Bitcoin break out and then perhaps this will follow. But this thing is proving right now that it's not following. So I would stay away from this and find something that has a much better looking chart. Okay, so thank you for mentioning it. Okay, let me see here. I'm just catching up on the chat. All right, BYND. I took BYND. Oh, Beyond Meat. I mean, oh my, look at this. Jeez. Yeah. I missed this one. We talked about this one. We talked about this one on Tuesday as well. And it was between like APPS and BYND. There you go. When this thing moves, it moves. Wow. What a mover. Up 17 points today. Anyway, nice trade. Okay, Monica. Don't listen to haters. I have been following you since 2017 and have always found you. Oh, thank you, Monica. Very nice to hear. Don't listen to haters. Yeah, I agree. Gabriel, same as Monica. Oh, wow. Nice, Gabriel. Oh, well, that's nice to know. Paul, the video helped me understand your company's approach for investing and will be the key decision if I trust you and sign up for a paid membership. Hope that's worth your time. Oh, Paul, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, that's why I do these videos, because for one, I like to show how we do things, why we do things, our rationale, because that's really how you're going to learn, right? You're not going to learn by just having someone throw numbers at you and say, oh, follow the oscillator and whatever, right? There's a lot of that out there, but there's a lot of, okay, it's just no problem. There's a lot of stuff out there like that, and we try to be very transparent, and the most important thing we focus on is risk, because if you can't manage risk, you're going to have a hard time no matter what. You may get a home run here and there, like BYND. Man, I can't believe this move here. But anyway, these are not a frequent occurrence. They seem like it's happening a lot right now, but we've been through hard markets, right? We know what it's like. So you get a home run, great. The idea is to develop the right behaviors and understand how to counteract the limitations of the human nature that we must face, because we all start out that way. And human nature is not a helpful thing. It's not an asset when it comes to random financial markets, which are highly random, but not always random. So that's the thing you have to keep in mind, okay? I'm just putting Bitcoin back up here. And in order to separate yourself from the herd mentality, which is part of human nature, first you have to become aware of it. And then you have to understand what the effective behaviors are. Because I could talk about this all I want. I could talk about it for hours and hours and hours. And then when things get nuts, right away, we get the herd mentality questions. And it's because that's our nature, right? And it's not your fault. It's just your nature. So it's like exercising a muscle. And little by little, you get stronger and you get better at it and you get better at it. And then we have guys like DJ and a few other people that say, hey, way back when, before I found you guys, I would have been a mess. I would have been reacting to this and that and this and that and following news. After you guys, now I see where opportunities are, and I'm much more interested when, they get excited when they could see a compelling opportunity, whereas before they may have been banging out of a weak hand position, right? That's a big difference. Anyway, okay, so I'm just going to leave you with that. Thank you all for the kind words. I appreciate that. If you have any other questions, again, just go check out greenbridgeinvesting.com, or you can also send an email, info@greenbridgeinvesting.com. I'm going to wrap this up now. I'm not too far over. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see everyone in the chat room tomorrow. Thank you all for watching.